Coming up in this video, we are diving into one of the most shocking statements Jesus ever made. We will unpack why he told people to eat his flesh and drink his blood. We will explore how this ties into Old Testament law and the Passover, and we will reveal what it really means for anyone seeking life in him. Let us jump right in. Number 1, it sounds cannibalistic. When most people hear Jesus say, "Unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you," from John chapter 6 and verse 53, their immediate reaction is shock. Some people take it completely literally and recoil, thinking he is commanding actual cannibalism. Others over-spiritualize it and dismiss it as just a metaphor, as if Jesus is only speaking symbolically about belief. Historically, his Jewish audience would also have been horrified because drinking blood was strictly forbidden in the law, as recorded in Leviticus chapter 17 and verses 10 through 14. This was not casual language. Jesus knew exactly what he was saying and intentionally used words that would challenge both his first-century listeners and people who read his words today. He did not soften his teaching to make it easier to accept. Number 2, Jesus is referencing the Jewish law on blood. The Old Testament forbade the consumption of blood because blood represents life and belongs to God. In telling his listeners to drink his blood, Jesus is turning that law on its head. He is pointing to a new covenant where life comes not from animal sacrifices or legalistic observance, but through his sacrificial blood. In the context of first-century Judaism, a listener would immediately think about temple sacrifices and the Passover lamb. Drinking his blood was not about breaking the law, it was about replacing the old system of blood sacrifices with himself, the ultimate provision for life and forgiveness. Number 3, Jesus is the new manna. Earlier in John chapter 6, he contrasts himself with the manna that sustained the Israelites in the wilderness. Manna provided physical sustenance, yet the people eventually died. Jesus presents himself as the true bread that gives eternal life. Eating the manna satisfied hunger temporarily, but Jesus offers something infinitely greater. His own body is spiritual nourishment for eternal life. This is why his words are so shocking. He is claiming that to truly live, one must partake in him completely. It is a call to go beyond the familiar comforts of tradition and encounter life in a way that only he can provide. Number 4, he is using a rabbinical shock tactic. In first-century Judaism, rabbis sometimes used extreme statements to provoke thought and discussion. Jesus was a master teacher, and by using language that was deliberately scandalous, he forced his audience to confront the heart of his message. Many disciples walked away after hearing this teaching as recorded in John chapter 6 and verses 60 through 66. Jesus was not trying to push people away for no reason. He was filtering those who were truly seeking life from those who were merely curious. He wanted to make it unmistakably clear that following him required full commitment and understanding of his mission. Number 5, it is about covenant, not cannibalism. Jesus was establishing the new covenant prophesied in Jeremiah chapter 31 and verses 31 through 34. Drinking his blood symbolizes participating in his sacrifice, just as the Israelites participated in the Passover lamb. Eating his flesh means taking in his life, his teachings, and his obedience. It is covenantal participation, not a literal act of consuming his body. In practical terms, this is what communion represents. When we eat the bread and drink the cup, we are proclaiming our faith in the sacrifice of Jesus and participating in the life he offers. Now, skeptics will argue that this sounds gruesome and impossible to follow, but it is essential to remember that Jesus' audience would have understood the imagery in light of Exodus, the temple sacrifices, and the Passover tradition. They would have also recognized the rabbinical method he used to shock people into deeper understanding. The language was intentionally provocative to highlight the magnitude of the new covenant and the reality of eternal life through him. Understanding the Jewish context is crucial. Drinking blood was prohibited, yet Jesus deliberately spoke of it to point to something greater. Eating manna only satisfied temporary hunger, yet he offers eternal life. Temple sacrifices provided atonement, but Jesus replaces them with his once-for-all sacrifice. The echoes of Exodus and the temple law would have resonated deeply with a Jewish listener, making his statement both revolutionary and challenging. This teaching also demonstrates the continuity between the Old and the New Testament. Jesus does not abolish the law, he fulfills it. He takes the symbolic elements of the Old Covenant and transforms them into a living reality. Just as the Israelites were saved by the blood of the Lamb during Passover, believers are saved by the blood of Christ. Just as they were nourished by manna in the wilderness, believers are spiritually nourished by Jesus. The imagery of eating and drinking is rich with meaning and points to participation in his life and sacrifice. Another important point is the first-century Jewish understanding of covenant. Covenants were often sealed with blood and shared meals. When Jesus speaks of eating his flesh and drinking his blood, he is inviting his followers into a covenantal relationship, a deep and binding participation in his life and death. It is relational, communal, and transformative. His words are not meant to be ignored or simplified. They demand attention, reflection, and response. So you see, John chapter 6 and verse 53 is one of the most profound and challenging statements Jesus ever made. It is meant to shock, to provoke, and to reveal the reality of the new covenant. It connects Old Testament law, temple sacrifice, manna, and the Passover. It calls for full participation in his life and death, not casual belief. By understanding the Jewish context, the first-century rabbinical methods, and the covenantal imagery, we can grasp the depth of what Jesus is offering. He is not speaking literally about cannibalism. He is offering life itself. The call is to take him fully into our lives, to believe in him, and to live by his sacrifice. As always, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe.